Okay, so remember that they're changing my voice because there's racist white Jews and LGBT people from the governing class who are fuming and poisoning me and covertly editing my videos because they think that it's smart to make it so my videos don't come out as well as they otherwise would. And they think that image is all that matters while the masses of people suffer, including children being raped, women being raped, you name it. So Matthew 24, the destruction of the temple and signs of the end times. Jesus left the temple and was walking away when his disciples came up to him to call his attention to its buildings. Do you see all these things, he asked? Truly I tell you, not one stone here will be left on another. Every one will be thrown down. The temple is symbolic of what's left of the human race. Okay, there be the walking dead. It connects to the Tower of Babel, the wise and foolish builders, the stone the builder rejected, David and Goliath, and the sling stones, stoning people to death. God is the rock, the foundation of the so-called, of the actual church in the spiritual realm, not the so-called church in the world, right, in the so-called churches. As Jesus was sitting on the Mount of Olives, the disciples came to him privately. Tell us, they said, when will this happen? And what will be the sign of the coming, of your coming and of the end of the age? Jesus answered, watch out that no one deceives you, for many will come in my name claiming I am the Messiah, and will deceive many. You will hear of wars and rumors of wars, but see to it that you are not alarmed. Such things must happen, but the end is still to come. Nation will rise against nation and kingdom against kingdom. There will be famines and earthquakes in various places. All these are the beginning of birth pains. And this connects to, I believe it's Micah, where it says when the king is killed, it's connecting it to birth pains. Okay, so what happens in the end of the world? After my flesh dies, people are sealed in hell, and the new realm of hell is birthed in this world. Okay, then you'll be handed over to be persecuted and put to death. You'll be hated by all nations because of me. At that time, many will turn away from the faith and will betray and hate each other. So all nations are going to hell, right? And you see that with the supercomputers and the technologies, which make it so that only crazy people will keep reproducing, right? Because the logic doesn't exist for one to justify continuing reproducing. Okay, so he said again, at that time many people will turn away from the faith and will betray and hate each other. They'll hate each other by their actions, by their spiritual actions, by the essence of their life actions. And many false prophets will appear and deceive many people. Because of the increase of wickedness, the love of most will grow cold. And again, this video series is about insults. So you can see they're saying all the nations are evil. Okay, people are going to betray God. They're basically saying their offspring are all evil. And it says the one who stands firm for moral precision will be saved, right? Stands firm as opposed to what? Wickedness and the love growing cold, right? So they'll keep the greatest commandment if they want to go to heaven. They'll come into the divine order and love God with all their hearts, which means obey his commands, loving his commands, living his commands. And I don't mean mere faith in Jesus, right? James covers that. I'll have a video in the future where I discuss why faith without works is dead, and how John 3 is a great example of why that is, where it says that the verdict is that people are going to hell, that they're evil, because they didn't have righteous deeds. And those who love the light come into the light and do righteous deeds. And those who hate the light don't come into the light because they're afraid that their deeds will be exposed. Well, we'll get to that in the future here. In this gospel, the kingdom will be preached in the world as a testimony to all nations, and then the end will come. Speaking of that in 1 Corinthians 4:20, it says, for the kingdom of God is not a matter of talk, but of power. So the righteous acts, the powerful and mighty righteous acts, moral might. So when you see standing in the holy place, the abomination that causes desolation spoken of through the prophet Daniel, let the reader understand, then let those who are in Judea flee to the mountains. So when you see that the church has crossed a certain point of evil, right? That increase of wickedness, where it's just crystal clear that they're making their evil push, okay? It's causing desolation, right? We see there's no trace of righteousness outside the divine order, which is what you would expect, but there's also no trace of receptivity to God. So they've been made desolate. It's like a wasteland. It's a desert wasteland. It's a desolate land, and the people are part of that land. You know, they hunt for every unclean and detestable animal. You know, hunt for jackals and so on and so forth. Snakes, wolves, what have you. Then let those who are in Judea flee to the mountains. Let no one on the housetop go down to take anything out of the house. Let no one in the field go back to get their cloak. How dreadful it will be in those days for pregnant women and nursing mothers. Pray that your flight will not take place in the winter or on the Sabbath, for then there will be great distress unequaled from the beginning of the world until now, and never to be equaled again. If those days had not been cut short, no one would survive, but for the sake of the elect, those days will be shortened. Now this part, is part of why I don't like the Bible. It confuses what's going on. The essence of what's going on here is the world is ending, right? And heaven and earth pass away, and a new heaven and a new earth emerge, okay? So the righteous go to the source of righteousness, and heaven and earth goes to hell. And what these people can perceive in the when they look up, right, at the sky and outer space, what have you, is so reduced that they're unable to see it. So it's passed away. Okay, without holiness, no one sees the Lord or anything in its true beauty. They just think they do at times, if that. At that time, if anyone says to you, look, here is the Messiah, or there he is, do not believe it. For false messiahs and false prophets will appear and perform great signs and wonders to deceive, if possible, even the elect. See, I've told you this ahead of time. So if anyone tells you, there he is out in the wilderness, do not go out. Or here he is in the inner rooms, do not believe it. For as lightning that comes from the east is visible even in the west, so will be the coming of the Son of Man. Wherever there is a carcass, there the vultures gather. So the evidence is in the state of the world, right? Satan fell to the earth in lightning. In Job, God bathes the sea in lightning. And in Exodus, there's lightning like there is in Revelation, right? It has to do with God pronouncing his presence, God punishing, what have you. So the punishments in the world, the satanic presence in the world, shows you that the Son of Man is here gathering the elect and is going to be leaving, and the earth is being transformed into hell. Immediately after the distress of those days, the sun will be darkened and the moon will not give its light, right? Spiritually speaking, right? They won't be able to see these things because they're not holy. The stars will fall from the sky and the heavenly bodies will be shaken. So there won't be bride or bridegroom, right? There won't be people who are actually in valid marriages, okay? The stars, which symbolize the angels and the angels of God, will no longer be at work, okay? Satan's angels will be the only ones at work to their great detriment. And those who are leading the charge, right? Woe to those people who they come through, mostly like the governing class. They're the churches, what have you. They're in a world of trouble. They go into hell and burning to the extreme. Then will appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven, and then all the peoples of the earth, or the tribes of the land, will mourn when they see the Son of Man coming on the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. And so I think that the simple answer is, that's why it says the tribes of the land. And the word tribe is a play on words for tribe B. It's referring to those people who are actually the true Jews, who aren't from the synagogue of Satan, like it says in Revelation, where they see the Son of Man coming. It's also, in a sense, the spirits, the souls of the inhabitants of the earth, okay, are seeing something like that occurring. They're not really seeing it, but they're seeing it on some level. And on some level, they're mourning. So you have to interpret it, again, within the boundaries of righteousness and justice. What's actually going on? What's doing the scripture justice? And what's the truth? The way, the truth, and life. So the way to interpret it is the truth, and to live a righteous life, and to spend your life interpreting correctly, and not in a misleading manner like the churches are doing. And also Isaiah 28:17, righteousness and justice are the measuring line and plume line. So that's the measure that you use to interpret it, right? The truth. And you have to always consider righteousness and justice and generational justice versus generational ill-gotten gains, what have you. And he will send his angels with a loud trumpet call, and they will gather his elect from the four winds, from one end of the heavens to the other. Now learn this lesson from the fig tree. As soon as its twigs get tender and its leaves come out, you know that summer is near. Even so, when you see all these things, you know that it is near, right at the door. Okay, so what it's saying here is, goes back to the parable of the fig tree, when he curses the fig tree, and it withers and dies because it didn't produce fruit in time. So learn the lesson of the fig tree, right? Produce fruit in time. Rally and obey God through me, and bear fruit in time. Truly, I tell you, this generation will certainly not pass away until all these things have happened. So it's saying the spirits of this generation, okay, they'll still be there. When all these things have happened, they'll be gone, right? You'll no longer see the righteousness of God. That's another reason they've interpreted the scripture wrong. They're not supposed to persecute me. People are supposed to see me. And I'm not supposed to be persecuted. They're supposed to see the Spirit. Heaven and earth will pass away, but my words will never pass away. So it says heaven and earth will pass away, right? And it's not talking about, because you got to do it in a way that's righteous and just. You think these people can just screen out the righteous? Like in Isaiah 57, the righteous are taken away to be spared from evil, and then magically wave a magic wand and say, hey, it's now magically a new earth and magically everything's okay? No. Heaven and earth pass away to the realm of the dead. It says that in Psalm 9 too. The wicked go down to the realm of the dead, all the nations that forget God. And what are all the nations that forget God? It's all the nations that for God's spiritual nation in the spirit realm. And I'm not talking about Jerusalem on this earth or anyone else on this earth. I'm talking about the spiritual realm. Okay. The day and the hour unknown. But about the day or the hour no one knows, not even the angels in heaven, nor the Son, but only the Father. As it was in the days of Noah, so it will be at the coming of the Son of Man. Okay? So, again, there's a bunch of idiots who keep, they're reveling, right? And they think, life is sweet, and they're hooked to a machine, and so on and so forth, right? And they're using technology in a certain way that's detestable, right? And they're pretending they're ideal, right? So, in the days before the flood, people were eating and drinking, marrying, and being given in marriage, right? And giving in marriage. Up to the day Noah entered the ark. And they knew nothing about what would happen until the flood came and took them all away. That is how it will be at the coming of the Son of Man. So when you see people not obeying God through me, right? They think that they know better. It's not that, hey, people are magically supposed to cover up what they shouldn't, which is the fact that I'm here. It's that they think that they know better. So Noah, was building an ark. People were aware of this to some degree, right? And they thought they knew better. So they say, hey, we don't believe them. And they kept eating and drinking in a certain way that reflected that they don't care about God and what's going on. And they don't believe Noah, right? The work of people is to believe the one God sent, to see it in them and to believe him. Okay, to be holy so you can see holiness in me and to believe me. And of course, with the ark, you had the wordplay, the monarch, the ark of the covenant, the ark of a strike. For example, if I was to strike someone smaller on the top of the head, it would come in a certain, in a certain angle, right? In a certain, for example, it's like a half circle, right? An arc. And they knew nothing about what would happen until the flood came and took them all away. Then there's hook punches and so on and so forth. Anyway, that is how it will be at the coming of the Son of Man. 2 men will be in a field, one will be taken and another left, right? You see Cain and Abel, for example, and those who are said to be the children of the devil, the children of Cain. Okay, so one will be taken and the others will be left and will keep reproducing, right? 2 women will be grinding with a hand mill. A lot of them will keep reproducing, that is. 2 women will be grinding with a hand mill. One will be taken and the other left. Now, to me, it's best that the whole human race is wiped out. Okay, because their very existence offends God. Therefore keep watch, because you do not know on what day your Lord will come. But understand this, if the owner of the house had known at what time of night the thief was coming, he would have kept watch and would not have let his house be broken into. So you also must be ready, because the Son of Man will come in an hour when you do not expect him. Who then is the faithful and wise servant whom the master has put in charge of the servants in his household to give them their food at the proper time? It will be good for that servant whose master finds him doing so when he returns. Truly I tell you, he will put him in charge of all his possessions. But suppose the servant is wicked, like everyone cheated me out of my right to leave, and says to himself, my master is staying away a long time. And he then begins to beat his fellow servants and to eat and drink with drunkards and to, sexually control them and hook them to a machine and lead them astray by their actions. The master of that servant will come on a day when he does not expect him, and in an hour he is not aware of. He will cut him to pieces and assign him a place with the hypocrites, right? Going back to Matthew 23, right? He kept calling them hypocrites. Where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. So again, the Pharisees' connections in Matthew 23. Woe to you, Pharisees, you hypocrites, right? What have you? Blind guides, children of the devil, children of hell, okay, full of greed and wickedness and self-indulgence and the bones of the dead and so on and so forth. So he'll assign them a place with the Pharisees where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. So again, you see how there's so many insults in this chapter. To some degree, they're subtle. To some degree, they're a whole lot less subtle. And there's a lot of other connections there, but it doesn't pay to connect all the dots, right? If you're interested in that, you could put it in the comments in whatever you think's connected. We'll explore it, but you'll see that it's not that important. I mean, I can sum up the whole Bible with, obey God through me. I'm the top martial artist. The kingdom of heaven is not a matter of talk, but of power. And those who don't obey will go to hell. And there's countless signs in nature. And when you look at people and when you consider their works and their generational works and their cultures, you should see that they have no viable counter-argument. That's why they're persecuting me. And it overkills that I'm Christ, and they're full of baloney. Thank you.